This is our first stream after South Africa's embarrassing exit. After we did our review show, of course, after the embarrassing exit of the World Cup against the Netherlands. And it's the first reflection that we're going to be doing on what took place at the World Cup and what we experienced, particularly in that final game. And also the first stream where we're going to start looking into the future and trying to maybe discuss what we as fans want from the future of South African cricket. Uh, I will start you guys off with some thoughts to maybe just think about before we bring on maybe some guests today if they are able to join. And I'll start you guys off with something that I wrote on Cricket Fanatics magazine. I don't write much for the site, but I needed to get this off my chest, and I'm going to read it to you guys today to start off the show, and then I'm going to get into some things that and some discussions on the show as well. But before we get going, before we get started, regardless of what's been happening to the Proteas, thank you all for subscribing to the channel and supporting us and clicking that notification bell. Please do that and click that notification bell for all future videos as well. Thank you guys for doing so. I really appreciate all your support still throughout whatever has happened. Download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly, and there is even more lessons in it now that we have lost, because we can look at the things that were said in in the mag, see what we did and what we didn't do, to put ourselves in the situation where we currently are. Also, to help us promote and grow South African cricket, please become a patron today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your further updates. So let's get into today's video. I'm looking forward to discussing everything with you guys and sifting through everything that has happened and going towards the future. A very good evening. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host Khalid, and this is the show where we're going to talk about everything that happened in the World Cup, of course, the exit, but the future too. It's so painful that I can only smile. And still feeling it, guys, today. I mean, I woke up this morning thinking that it was a nightmare or a dream. Went to the TV, switched it on. No, it was Monday. And it was a tough one for me to still digest everything. I'm looking at Colin Walker's comment. Khalid, I really wish we could go back to square one, but we have literally been embarrassed on the main stage, losing to the Netherlands, and we're gonna have to go through the qualifiers to make the World Cup. Can't explain how embarrassed I feel right now. Our test batting order is in shatters. Our ODI squad um, has gone through. What do you wait? I'm missing. Why is this thing hacking? Wait. Has gone through Gallifers. I don't know how to pronounce the word. Sorry, guys. And choked another world. And our white ball captain is a joke. This literally has been the worst 2019, where the new area where there's change caused right where we are. Literally laughing stock hard. I feel so embarrassed to be a South African. Sorry, I messed that up completely. Uh, uh, I think you meant qualifiers over there, says Abai in that thing. Okay, so sorry for that. I was like, maybe I saw a word I've never seen before. Yeah, I look like an idiot on live stream. Anyway, I'm going to start with this stream before I bring on the guests on the show with a little this piece that I wrote today. You guys can go read the full piece. But I put together like it's basically a 6-point plan that I feel that we should maybe look at going into this. I mean, I'm no director of cricket, but I wanted to do this, voice my opinion on what I feel maybe we can do going towards the future. So I'm just going to read that part. I've given my reasons for what I've said, but basically what I said is, let me paint you a scenario to get the conversation started, and I think this will start the conversation beautifully on tonight's show. Number one, the DOC and his team need to discuss where they want to see South African cricket going, and which I assume has been happening already. Next, there needs to be a selection panel with a pedigree but put in place that understands how to identify players that have the right mentality, technical ability, and personality that fits into a high performance culture. If you're good enough, you are old enough. It's not just about the stats alone, it's about the story that the stats tell you about the player. Number three, the coach needs to be aligned with a plan and a vision that was drawn up by the DOC and his team. This is not about finding a stopgap that can help us win games in the short term. It's about building a team that grows together, improves together, loses together, and wins together. Everyone must buy into the vision and the culture. Number four, the coach's staff needs to be qualified and able to improve players technically. They should have the ability to identify shortcomings and find solutions to fix them. We don't have the luxury of picking experienced players, so we need to grow our own. This means consistency over time becomes vital. And I'm talking about international experienced players here. The needs to be consistent, the need to have consistent communication between the national side and the domestic unions is important. Conversations need to be held with the future talent and current talent on where they stand in the local game, that they need what they need to improve on in the game and and how they can meet international standards. And if they are showing signs of being ready, a PDP player development plan needs to be put into place together to get players as ready as possible for the setup. Lastly, we also need to find a budget in the setup for a sports psychologist. Those are some of the points that I made within what I think we should go forward with, and maybe some hints to the DOC or some help to the Cricket South Africa to try and find a system that now works, because we need to reset again. We're back into that mode again where we need to reset again. We went with the way we did before this. The guys that are coming on the show have spoken about this in various ways. So I think it's going to be a perfect balance. So I'm going to bring them on to give their say. I've had my say about what I think. You guys can read that piece on cricketfanaticsmag.com. But let's get the panel on and let's start discussing what they feel currently. We've got Umpo, we've got Werner, and we've got Abai with us today. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm going to start off with you, Umpo, and basically everybody. We can go Umpo, Werner, and then Abai. I want to know how you guys are feeling now after this defeat. Let's start off there. How are you guys feeling?
I had 4 hours yesterday from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. to kind of get myself ready for a loss, because I think after the fourth over, I realized we were going to lose this one. It felt like the other games that we lose. And so for me, it was, oh snap, we actually could lose this. Okay, well, it's not my fault. It's them. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's the 15 players or the 11 players that need to step up. And every World Cup, we bring a set of 11 players that are quality, world class, but they somehow find a way even not to even play for themselves. You know, we all have dreams as kids to win World Cups and everything else. Forget about South Africa. Forget about the fact that you're wearing the green and gold. You've arrived close to the pinnacle of your cricketing career, and you're going to let it go just because you're going to arrive on a day and you just don't feel right. We all saw the energy was off. We all saw the decisions that they were making. And nobody in the 15 was like, guys, this is not how I'm going to get out of this World Cup. Let's get ourselves back into this. So, in as much as I'm sad, and I'm just like, look, those guys are the ones who are playing. At the end of the day, it's what it is. They got themselves knocked out. We did nothing to do with it. Tomorrow we're gonna go and live our lives, and those guys are gonna come back on Wednesday, and they're gonna be embarrassed for them. But yeah, to me, it was like, if you can't find it within yourself to want to lift your team with a performance and lift them out of whatever hole they found themselves in, then there's nothing else that I can do for you. Because for years and years and years, for every World Cup, everyone's been leaving it to the next guy, to the next guy. They've always wanted to find something else to blame to get themselves out of this mess. So for me, up until we figure out, up until we get an 11 of guys who just want to play, I must forget about us, for themselves, to want to win something and put themselves at the top, then yeah. But you spoke, a sports psychologist and everything else, to me, at the end of the day, it comes from within. They arrived in Adelaide thinking they just could arrive. And they they thought arriving was going to win the game, and they didn't. And too often, Mark Boucher's teams lose games like this because they don't have energy. We got smacked by Bangladesh because somehow they didn't have the energy for 3 matches, and when they found the energy, they just couldn't do much. And funny enough, now how do we play that Netherlands qualifier after they've beaten us? I know Stefan Myberg is like retired right now, but I think he's still playing ODI. So, like, I honestly don't know how this team is even going to get themselves out of the qualifiers, because I'm sitting there going, if you guys can't handle pressure and you can't even embrace the fact that this is where we're going, then what is it? So yeah, to me, it's psychological. I feel as though a lot of the people in this team, or I don't know, maybe it's a thing of cricket where guys are like, it's the next dude, but like in soccer, teams don't do this. You know, in soccer, there's always that one guy who's gonna put his hand up. Here, if your best player is not on, everyone feels like it's all right for them to have a day off. That doesn't make sense to me, and it's happened too often for me to be like, yeah, because remember, Mark Boucher was brought in to make this team tough. Where's the toughness? They didn't fight yesterday. They just rolled over. But that's me. I'm done.
Werner, Abai, and then Nazir.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. I agree with Paul. They just gave up, and it since the first 10 overs of the Pakistan game, from there it was all downhill, really. It was quite disappointing to see. It's like they were like, okay, it's fine, we don't have to win this match, we'll just play the Netherlands and we'll beat them and we'll be in the semi, no worries. And then they pitched up, but they didn't really pitch up for the Netherlands game, thinking, we're in great form, we're the much stronger team, we can just go through the motions and we'll beat them because they aren't as good as we are. They're the lowest ranked team still in the competition. And so the only person who really showed up was Andrich Norkeer. And he bowled his heart out, bowled fantastically. You could see he was up for it. But the other guys didn't really seem up for it. And it really was disappointing. It's hard to see exactly where we will go from here. It definitely is a mental type of thing. It's not like we don't have the players. Going into this World Cup and even after the first couple of games, you could see we have a very strong team. We had a great, strong middle order that could really take any team apart on their day, but it hasn't happened consistently. But it's definitely in the head. They were very tentative throughout. They weren't backing themselves 100%. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we approach things from here on out. It's probably a good thing that we do get a new coach, though for now it's an interim coach, which is not ideal. But we'll see when we do get a permanent coach or coaches. I suppose we'll probably have a coach for the test team and have another coach for the limited overs formats. It'll be interesting to see how that synergy works. How will they be working closely together? Because some of the guys are obviously in the test team and in the limited over sides. So there needs to be some sort of connection between the two coaches. You can't have one philosophy for the one team and one philosophy for the other team. Obviously, different formats, you won't have exactly the same approach to the games, but you still want the same sort of team culture throughout. So that's going to be an important thing to look at.
Abai, you covered the game. So,
Oh
for us,
man.
how are
Well,
you
first of
feeling?
all, hello guys. Good morning. It's nice to be back. I mean, it's not the ideal situation to make my return after absolute ages, but it's still a very important talking point. You know, I do want to start by saying that there are no pushovers in T20 cricket. That mentality has to go. You give everything your all, no complacency, none of that garbage. Um, in fact, the only sort of upside, I guess, to me watching that game was it started at 5 p.m. my time. The other game against India that began around 4 a.m. and I managed to get up around 5:30 to watch the second half of that game, and it was worth getting up early. But over here, it's yeah, it's a painful realization, and yeah, covering that game, I know it sucked. In fact, yesterday I didn't have the motivation to do a damn thing, and I'm not even kidding there. Um, yeah, I think if we were to look at the selection, um, I think some better decisions could have been made. At least the skipper could have chosen to bat first instead of bowl first, and it was clearly a slower pitch. So there could have been a possibility to include another spinner, Tabriz Shamsi. That didn't happen, and and he ended up having to get 2 overs from Aiden Markram, who's a part-time option. Um, yeah, when it came to the batting, one pretty obvious thing was multiple guys had good starts, but nobody could convert it into a bigger contribution. I'm obviously not taking anything away from how Netherlands bowled and fielded. They were absolutely brilliant, and they fully deserved to win this game. I think. I, I I think when it comes to Temba Bavuma, he has been subject to criticism and all kinds of abuse from fans. But decision he makes about captaincy, he can't give in to the court of public opinion. He'll have to make that call on his own, right? But with that being said, it's a pretty sad end to what could have been a potentially better World Cup campaign, and I think going forward, there are a lot of serious questions that need to be answered, and yeah, that's where I'm going to start.
Okay, Nazir, before we get into the
Yeah.
crux of this episode.
Yeah, well, we choked. We choked before we got to the stadium. Before ball was bowled, we choked. The toss was wrong as a base hit. Probably the decision to not pick 2 spinners was wrong. But at the end of the day, I think you could have picked top 30 players in South Africa, and you should still beat Netherlands. I know there's no walkover in T20 cricket, but we are better than them. They are weaker side than us. We could have picked any top 30 players in South Africa, and they should have beat the Netherlands. So I don't want to individualize any of my criticisms, because at the end of the day, when they rocked up at the stadium, each bowler had no balls bowled, and each batter didn't face a ball. Each one of them had an opportunity to win the game for South Africa against Netherlands, which isn't a tough task, which shouldn't be a tough task. And only one of those players did that in Anrik Nortje. The rest of them were nowhere near it. I watched Mark Boucher's interview, and I think he's still choking. He said that the players didn't have the energy, and he said something about the time. And like, the time in the morning, my guy, that's your job, to make the team up for it. Why are you blaming something so stupid? Like, get up for the game. That's your job as a coach, to make the players up for a knockout game in a World Cup. Like, I don't understand. It's just a complete choke. Like, I don't know. This team, I give up on them.
There's another point that I wanted to add. When it came to the balance of the 11, if you look at the top 6, Temba Bavuma, Quentin de Kock, Riley Rousseau, Aiden Markram, David Miller, Tristan Stubbs, or Heinrich Klaassen, and then you have Wayne Parnell at number 7. I mean, he is a good bowler. He's definitely improved from how he was before he took the Kolpak route and then came back, and then he's now done a lot better. But if we look at his batting, I think calling him an all-rounder would be a bit of a stretch. I mean, he's definitely able to hold a bat, and he's able to bat, and he's shown what he's capable of in the domestic scene. But the international game, it's a different ball game. It's a step up in quality, and I'm not sure if he does cut it at a number 7. I think number 8 would make more sense, but number 7 is probably one batting position too high.
So here's the thing regarding Wayne, right? What were we supposed to do? Because there are teams in this World Cup who've gone we're going to bat Liam Livingston at number 7, even though he's not a good bowler, and we're going to pray and hope that for his 4 overs, he's not going to get hit out the park. Whereas South Africa said, no, we want to have 5 bowlers, 5 guys who can actually bowl those 4 overs. So where does Wayne... So then fine, if you say Wayne bats at 8, who bats at 7 and can bowl for you 4 overs? Because you saw even in that India game that Ashwin and Pandya situation where all of a sudden you couldn't even hide them. What would you have done? Because my thing is that fine, yeah, we don't have Dwayne Pretorius, but who else were you going to put at 7? And on top of that, my other thing is, so fine, we consider Wayne as a bowler, right? Cool, sharp. Then who else are we? Because right now Kagiso's off form. You've got Lungi and Anna who should be playing, but then what do you do around that? Because for me, that was the thing. And Marco Jansen's only new to international cricket. I'm not going to throw a child into a World Cup situation when he's just played like three games. Tristan Stubbs had at least traveled the world and been on 2 tours before he came in. Marco has been with the Proteas, but I wouldn't have trusted him at 7 either. Khalid's on mute.
To myself first. Surely that goes out of the window if you've already selected a 19-year-old in the squad. If you pick them in the squad, they should be good enough to play any game when you need them.
But do you want to put the pressure on him? That was my only question around that.
I mean, at this point, I understand the whole pressure talk, but for me, it doesn't really matter from a pressure perspective because they crumble under pressure anyway. So what worse would they have done if they played Marco Jansen?
But Wayne bowled well for us, and that was. But remember, guys, we've had.
But having both would have been a better.
Boucher goes for 5 bowlers. Yeah. Remember, we had this conversation many times in limited overs cricket. Boucher does 6-5.
I don't know why we
seem to 7-4.
Yeah, some of us have been surprised, but we knew that he's going to play Keshav in majority of games when he has the opportunity. He already told us this on multiple occasions.
Yes.
So it's not like we knew we went into it blindly because of our hope. I feel.
Yes, but the issue was we didn't lose this because of Wayne Parnell batting at 7. We lost this because we can't bowl at the death. That was the reason why we found ourselves in trouble against Zimbabwe. In those 5 overs, we conceded 60 runs. I think India, we conceded a little bit less. Pakistan, we got taken out the water. And then in those final 2 overs of Netherlands, we conceded 31. And largely, it was Kagiso. And that was a question that needed to be had. Remember, I've always said we needed to play 2 spinners. So one of the 4 bowlers had to go. And we got carried away with that because we thought Adelaide was like everything else. And we found ourselves in trouble.
Do you know what my problem is, Mpo? It's
the loyalty to reputation, right?
Yeah, I know you said that, and I mentioned that, yes, I mentioned that in my piece too. It's the sentiment that I don't want to see when it comes to World Cup games, but that's another talk. We'll move on to that later. But talking about, I know you say in the death we lost the game with the ball. I actually think we lost it up front. Our bowling plans from the start were wrong. They kept on persisting with the same length, knowing that the batter was short and wide, and then we're just knocking them to the boundary. My problem was the ability to adapt in this particular game was completely off. And there's no way that I think that Pavuma, from previous times when he's seen that happen, he's turned to another bowlers. In this particular game, he turns to the next bowler, and they also bowl the same length, and they also get punished. So at this point, he turned to everybody, and he's like, who should I go to next? Andrich was the only one bowling full and straight. The rest were all bowling short. It was crazy to see that. I did show you this game on, and I'm laughing because you're wearing a CSA t-shirt.
You're brave. You are so brave.
Guys, I don't know about the Proteas, but my energy levels are high, and I'm happy to be here.
Lucky.
Yeah, sorry. Abhay, do you want to go ahead because I think you have to leave?
No, you can go ahead first. I have a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, guys, interestingly, I think it's this World Cup has unraveled the whole gamut of emotions in all of us, and I think my reaction, the truth is that while this World Cup was happening and certainly the Netherlands game, I've been reading Faf du Plessis' book, as Bo has been as well, and funnily enough, a lot of what he mentioned, a lot of what he writes in the book is exactly why South Africa have lost. And to a certain degree, it's like I get goosebumps there because you feel like you talk about things like whether it's team culture or communication, transparency, unity, the famous Russell Domingo quote, everybody needs love. I think all of these are so important. And you can almost tell that it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether it was the Netherlands. I think the South Africa simply weren't going to rock up on a day when it really mattered, because there's just something fundamentally that needs change in the team. And look, cricket, the batters know how to hold the bat and hit a ball. The bowlers know how to roll their arm and bowl. So I don't think skills are the problem. But whether we talk about mental issues or whether we talk about culture, I think it's obviously time for some of those discussions to be had again, unfortunately. And this is after another year, right? Like, this is exactly a year after the SJN, and we've had those conversations repeatedly, I think, since the pandemic started. And as this show is titled Back to Square One, I guess that's where we are.
I mean, how do you improve the squad from last time's World Cup and they do worse? Like, it's mental. Bye. Is he stuck? It looks like he's stuck. Data in America. So I'm gonna kick him. He'll come back again. Let's continue that conversation, guys. Where do we go, Werner? From your perspective, let's start with you. Let's talk about the plans forward. I mean, you heard my 6-point whatever plan that I've tried to give some tips here. I was obviously not from a place of knowing. I mean, I just went with what I felt. I needed to get it off my chest. I haven't really written. I don't write much on the site. Mostly editing work more than writing. But what's your thoughts going forward? If you had to give some tips to maybe the DOC or to way forward, I mean, is it a complete reset? Do you keep some of the players within the squad and then build onto it? Is there anything to build from, or is it all down to rubble at the moment?
Abai, do you want to go first before I give my opinion?
Yeah, I'm going to make it nice and quick, but yeah, I wanted to make one quick reference. So I don't know if any of you have read it, but there's this book called The Art of War by the acclaimed Chinese general Sun Tzu, and he has dedicated a couple of chapters into when it comes to varying your plans against different oppositions. And I think this was one thing where the Proteas got it wrong. Going back to the pace attack, I know Rabada had a bad tournament, but there was the option to potentially switch him out. I'm not taking anything away from him, because I do know how good he is on most occasions, but he clearly wasn't at his best, and this could have been the opportunity to play Shamsi. And even though Shamsi hasn't had the best 2022. In 2021, he was absolutely amazing, and he was consistently up there in the top 3 rankings when it came to T20 bowling. So I think with that being said, I'm gonna leave it by saying that more proactive decisions have to be made. Enough with the interim appointments, because whenever you encounter situations of this kind, you need to find solutions instead of sort of like half-hearted attempts to fix it for the time being, and sort of like aimlessly meander through the tough times. Because when you make a permanent appointment, that's a sign that you're placing trust in someone to get us through the tough times, rather than just sort of like reaching some sort of lazy decision. So that's where I'm going to leave it at. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Abai, for coming on. I think, Werner, we can maybe touch on that quickly, KG, because I know you probably know the stats before you move on to the next point. I mean, he has been terrible for a while in white ball cricket, actually. It's not like this is a sudden thing. I mean, IPL as well, he wasn't necessarily at the top of his game in the IPL. I mean, Aditya and I spoke about it intensely during the IPL. There's something off about KG. He's lost a yard of pace. He doesn't bowl a lot of Yorkers anymore. The swing of his swinging deliveries aren't as dangerous as they maybe used to be. I mean, all levels of cricket, actually. It might just be tiredness, or I don't know what it is, overworked or something, but we can't keep using the overworked situation for the last four years since he's been on this decline. So your thoughts on KG, and are we right to be critical of him?
Yeah, I don't think any player is beyond criticism, no matter how well he's done in the past, or how highly we rate him, or how many wickets he's taken. KG's definitely not been at his best. He only took 2 wickets in this whole World Cup. He hasn't done all that well in T20s. He's been okay. He hasn't conceded that much, right? His economy rate has been under 8 for this year, which we would say is still it's surprising, seeing as he has gone for a few in the last couple of games. But mostly he's been fairly decent, but he hasn't been picking up wickets. And if you're giving a guy the new ball, you want him to strike, right? You want wickets early in the power play to set the other team back. But it's generally come down to, in this World Cup in particular, it's come down to Wayne Parnell, or it's come down to Lungi Ngidi or Anik Nortje. Anik Nortje has obviously had a fantastic tournament. Parnell has only conceded at about 6.5 runs per over. So I'd rather have KG go at 9 and pick up a few more wickets or 2 wickets in a match than I want him to be conservative and not pick up wickets. So it's a tricky one with KG because we know the class he does have. But he definitely has lost some pace. So I think the fact that he's lost a bit of pace, or he's bowling within himself, whatever the case may be, it does take away a bit of his striking power, I feel, because Anik Nortje can be wayward at times, but he still picks up wickets because he has that yard of extra pace. Now, I'm not saying KG has to bowl at 150, but bowling low 130s is also not really what we've come to expect from KG. I'm sure he still has the ability to crank it up to 145 if he wants to. And on the point of Yorkers, that is definitely something that he isn't bowling enough of anymore. Because I remember him showing up for us at 19, and he loved to bowl Yorkers every other over. I remember that debut game against Bangladesh as well. He would fire in those Yorkers, and I was so excited just because it's something that we
Didn't have
lack.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, we lacked severely guys that can just come in and bowl Yorkers. And it was so good to see a guy running in with a new ball and bowling Yorkers, being willing to do that. Something that you could see Mitchell Stark do, or Shine Shah Afridi. They would do that. Go on, bowl quickly, try to swing it up front, get it full, try to get that Yorker in, swing it into the pads, stumps, go for the wickets. Immediately they might they might be clipped for a 4 or 2, but they generally pick up wickets in their first over or 2. And I'd love to see that sort of approach from KJ as well. But in terms of looking forward, yeah, it's it's a tricky one. I think it will probably start with the coach and what will the coach's philosophy be? What will he bring to the team? What will his approach be? Because obviously the team is going to follow whatever the coach brings to the table, because they all need to have a similar sort of idea of the path forward. And if the coach and the players don't agree, or they don't sit well with each other, it's not going to help the team environment, which we know is not ideal in any case. Even though they look all happy and everything, it's tricky because they're still not mentally prepared for tough situations like we had now in this World Cup, like the Netherlands game that shouldn't even have been a difficult situation to start with. So I guess it's going to start with the coach and then captain. The question will be, will Temba continue with captaincy in the T20 format in particular? I suspect he will continue with the ODIs. He will want to lead at the World Cup coming up. The question is, how does he view it? Is he gonna say, no, I don't want a captain anymore, I'd rather have somebody else captain, work on my game? Do the coach come in and say, I'd rather start off new with a new captain? It's a tricky situation we find ourselves in. It's never nice to chop and change too much. That's why I don't think we're gonna just up and change our all-11 and bring a bunch of new guys in. They'll all still have to be phased in. You want new guys to come in, obviously. You want to select players who are in form, players who have shown up or done well domestically. Maybe you bring in guys into the squads like a Donovan Ferrara, or guys who've bowled consistently well over a couple of seasons in limited overs cricket, like Otniel Bartman, who's been fantastic at the death, and we've been struggling at the death. So why not get somebody into the squad who can show up at the death, somebody you can rely on to consistently come in, bowl the jokers, bowl the slow balls, something different. But again, if you do that, it's tricky because you have KG, you have Lungi, you have Anas. So who are you not going to play to play somebody like that? And I think it's going to come down to, are they willing to pick players who are in form and who can do the job, above the sentiment we've been talking about. So KG has not been having a great tournament. Do they pick somebody else in his place that we know can do the job, who's been in good form? Somebody like Ariza Hendricks was in great form the whole year leading up to the World Cup, didn't play a single game, which is very tough on him. Like I sort of understand the reasoning why they didn't, but it just doesn't seem fair, really, and it doesn't seem to the advantage of the team that he didn't play. So it's a lot of tough questions that needs answering, a lot of thought that needs to go into it, and I think it's going to come down also to who the selectors feel will be the next coach, because that's going to be a tricky one. Because as Zabai said, picking an interim coach, it also doesn't really sit well with me. But you can't also just force in a new coach immediately just in front of a Australia tour. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have real answers for you.
And Paul, you want to give it a go?
Look, I think in the interim, obviously Mark's gone. So yeah, he's out, and a lot of those decisions that everyone is talking about, the selections and everything else, rest at the head of Mark, the selectors, and Temba Bavuma. And so, from a leadership perspective, they were okay, and they were getting away with a lot of things. In terms of obviously the reason on selection, and also some of the smaller things that were happening, like the death bowling throughout the tournament. But obviously now we're losing to the Netherlands. It's pretty much it's a stain. The question obviously is, will the new captain and DOC want Temba to captain the T20s? Temba might want to step down, but after all everybody was asking for him to step down and do the right thing, the man did not. He was adamant because the people who were putting him there, the selectors, were wanting him to be there. So it's going to come down to who the new captain is, to the new coaches, and what the new captain wants. And look, I do foresee Temba stepping down himself. I think he probably will, because the abuse that he's received on social media, he said it as well, over the past month has been unbelievable. It's been unbelievable. It's been so bad. And I wouldn't want him to put himself in that position again. And I don't think he would want to put himself in that position again, because social media is a vile place. We are a vile human race. We're really, really bad people. And we need to be disappointed. We need to be really disappointed in the way we've treated them. But moving forward, Temba's probably going to go away. A new coach comes in. I want a coach that follows the philosophy of aggressive cricket. I want to actually split T20, a limited overs cricket, to test cricket, and have two coaches, but I don't think we have the money for that. So we're going to have to be very clever about how we go about things, right? I'd like us to be very aggressive in T20 cricket, and that's the kind of style we were going for up until we got to the Netherlands and everyone just went back into their shell. So I'd like for that, but you got to give people a chance. You got to give guys a long run in the team. You can't throw guys away. I was not happy with them dropping Stubbs yesterday. I was really angry. I was like, what does that tell Tristan? And what message does it give him? So for me, that's the one thing. Clarity of message, as you said, Khalid. All the domestic coaches need to know what the plan is in getting players into the limited overs team for South Africa. So the new coach needs to go and do a roadshow, sit with the players, sit with the coaches, and let them know these are the type of, just like how Brendan McCullum went to England Lions and said, if you guys are going to want to try and bat at what was it? He was talking about some randomly slow strike rate. You won't make my team. This is how you're going to make my team. This is how you're going to go. I think we need to go around that route. I do think the team needs a psychologist. And the only problem about it is that it depends on because we saw with Mark, right? Mark wanted certain types of people and certain types of personalities to be in a support staff. That's going to come with the new coach. All the people asking for international coaches, unless that coach is willing to work around the transformation imperatives of CSA, good luck getting an international coach. A lot of them really did struggle with that, because that's not going away. So we're going to have to look inside and look and see. I want to give someone a chance. I don't mind it being Malibonga Maketa. I think he's going to do a really great job with the Proteas in Australia. I would have actually loved Edok to take the job because I think he has the plan. It's in his head, Khalid, and you've probably heard it and heard him speak it. I'd like it to come to fruition and see if he can get somebody who can bring it to life. Because for me, that's where we need to go. The way in which the Jersey Stars played under him, the way in which the Lions play T20 cricket and limited overs cricket under him is the type of cricket we want to see. And the type of cricket I think we all need to try and go to. I see the Titans were trying to do that. They just don't have a bowling attack to do it. And so, yeah. But then also take care of your players. Bring them in. Let them know where they stand. It's going to be very hard to get players to play the longer formats of the game, the test matches, the ODIs, because everyone wants to play T20 now. But my hope is obviously SA20 will try and distill the talent into an a consumable format for whoever the selectors are going to be able to pick the best teams. My only question to everybody is, okay, fine, Temba's out as captain. Who do you make captain going forward? That's the only question I have. I say David Miller, but you guys are going to tell me he's 32 and you don't want David Miller in the side. Outside of that, that's David Miller. Give the captaincy to David Miller. It's an easy pick. He picks himself. Even if he goes on a wretched run of form like Timber has done, you stick with him. Because the problem is that everyone thinks that the burden of captaincy is something that can be transferred across to different people. And that's not true. And to a certain extent, that's probably one of the reasons why Temba was kept up there. And the fact that Reza didn't play is because Mark didn't want to transfer the burden of captaincy to somebody else. Because look what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was Aiden Markram going through all of that and going through the press, going through this entire embarrassment. And so for me, you need to find someone who's going to carry that and somebody you all will back. And that everybody wants to follow, and that everybody, regardless of whether they're getting 5 ducks in a row, that you stake your head on the ground and say, that's my captain, that's the guy I'm going for. Because everyone thinks that captaincy, you also need to be a cricketer and you also need to perform, and that's true. But captaincy is another player as well. A captain's the 12th player, but we bring them in like an all-rounder because that's what it's supposed to be. And so whomever we pick, let's back them. Because what happened in the social media streets is not right. Even though it wasn't his decision to pick himself as captain, even though it wasn't his decision to be selected in the team, the selectors could have dropped him, but they didn't. It's never Bavuma's fault. It'll never be anybody's fault as the captain. But yes, yesterday it was all on Temba, and Temba needs to take that. And this exit is all on him. But whomever you choose as captain going forward needs your full backing. Even if he's a 37-year-old man who needs to bounce, you chose him, he's been chosen, he's the guy we need to go to. So essentially, I'm saying David Miller, but a 32-year-old David Miller, I'm not sure if the rest of the cricketing world will want him.
Because funny enough, Umpo, I mean, a lot of people don't maybe forget this, but myself and Umpo did a stream as immediately after Temba Bavuma selected as captain. And we were both shocked by the decision. Because we looked at it and we were like, you're picking a captain that we know is not in form, that already has criticism against his name in the white ball format, and you're putting him in the hardest job in world cricket and as a T20 World Cup captain. We thought, what is the reason for this, and why would they go with someone? We both said that actually before. And then once he was elected, we started to see some changes happen within the team culture. That was visible to see. Myself and Impo spent some time we're seeing Proteas in action in training as well. We saw the vibe around the camp. I mean, I saw it. When I spoke to players off air and spoke to them about how they're feeling, it seemed very much a together camp, and they were starting to build a culture and an ethos, and we were on a train. And then a couple of things happened. The debacle around Faf, Imran Tahir, Chris Morris, there was that happened that blew out everything. And I think a lot of players lost respect for Boucher and Smith when that whole thing happened and the way it panned out. And I think some of the players might have felt a certain way about the hierarchy at that point. And I think even through that, he had to pick. Then we had the World Cup and the whole kneeling debacle and the BLM movement that he had to operate through himself. Where some players in the team were literally standing on opposite ends with regards to this. We know that it's quite well reported about that there's certain players that were confused. They didn't know if they should kneel first in the air, stand, not stand. They didn't know what to do as a unit. And as a South African team, not to understand why that was important for our culture was tough for someone to stand there and take that responsibility. And Temba did navigate them through that as well. And then selection started happening. Riley Rousseau coming back. There were some people that on this channel that said we didn't want Riley Rousseau in the team. I think I was one of them at the beginning as well. When I said that, I feel that what he did with regards to the Kolpak deal and the way he left, it really scarred me as a person because I was a massive fan of his. And I sat in the press conference the day when it was announced. Russell, and like I say the story over and over again. Carl Abbott announced that he would be signing a Kolpak deal. Russell Domingo came out there to announce it with Carl. And then, by the way, at the end of the conference, he said he also received an email from Riley Rousseau saying that he's already signed the deal, not asking. Whereas Carl Abbott went to every single player, asked their advice. He went to every single person. He asked, what should I do? This is the point that I'm coming to my idea. There's a young bowlers coming through the system here that might take my spot. He was worried about that. What should he do? And the players gave him advice. Even the coach gave them advice on what he should do next. Whereas Riley just signed, left, and sent the email to Russell Domingo, spelling his name incorrectly as well in the email, apparently. It was a joke that went on for a very long time in that presser. So I was very hurt by the way he left, because even though he was performing poorly, I mean, he started off, I think, with 3 ducks or something like that. I think it was, Werner. You'll know. I can't remember what the exact stats were. And then they kept on backing him through the difficult form. And then he still did what he did. And that hurt. So it was very hard for me to accept the fact that we were bringing someone in. But we knew that we needed someone that was going to be able to hit the ball at the park at will. And that's what shocked me about his performance against the Netherlands. Smaller boundaries, perfect for him to play his natural game. And he seemed a bit tentative at the crease. He seemed a bit lackluster. But that's a story for another time. I mean, Paul made some great points over here about certain things. And I think the captaincy is a good place to start. I never thought that Bavuma should have been captain in the first place. I thought that it needed to be someone that I feel that was going to be a definite for the next 5 years. I'm a planner. I like to think a vision of the future. That's always been me. By the peep, you can see it in football too. And maybe perhaps Kinnock's mindset is very football orientated. He often does. He does often quote the likes of Pep Guardiola's and the Ferguson's and the Klopps when he speaks about systems and putting systems in place and structure. What do you guys think of maybe the idea of South Africa putting in a system in place that is adaptable? Obviously, it changes as it grows, and it will be growing, but that is untouched regardless of who you put in as the coaching position. So you'll go to a coach, get them to obviously apply for the job like any other company. Every company has a corporate identity and a mission and a state and the way they want to approach a certain way. South Africa Cricket or the GOC set the standard. We obviously take job applications and we interview for that position. We say, this is the style that South African cricket wants to go with. You need to do X, Y, Z. This is the type of restrictions you're going to be having and spoken about beforehand. And the person knows what they're coming into. And they'll have a certain amount of leeway, obviously, to make certain decisions and put their own stamp on the team. Of course, that will happen. But at least there's a structure that is repeatable and growable over the future. What are your thoughts on having a system first and then approaching a coach or a coach applying for that job, knowing what the system requirements are to be the Proteas head coach? Anybody can go. Your silence in the court.
But that's essentially what they should do with the job spec. To say, this is what we want, these are the parameters we want to play with. This is the type of cricket we want to play, and are you willing to do that?
Yeah, and to follow up on that, once you have that and you have a coach who will buy into that, let's say it's an attacking brand of cricket for the T20 format. Then if you have that coach, then you also need to get those players, because we can't take a Dean Algar and tell him to play aggressive cricket in T20.
That was a big mistake I feel Mark Boucher made. When he said he was going to start teaching them techniques to try and make them better T20 cricketers, I thought that was a massive punch in my gut when he said that, because I thought that looking in the system, you've got players already doing it. Why did we need to teach players different moves and extra cut shots and dull scoops and stuff to try and improve their game?
Khalid, do you know why Mark didn't have a batting coach for most of his coaching career? I know Justin Salmons came in for the World Cup last year. Because Tim and I were having this thing, and he says no. He was told that there was no money for a batting coach, which I don't believe.
Is that what Tim said?
Yeah, but I don't believe that because
I think that Boucher wanted control over that aspect of it.
yes, that's what I thought. That
I
was
thought.
my thing. He wanted to teach our players the whole the reverse sweeps and the cuts behind square and the scoops over each other's heads.
Yeah,
Nazir?
so like I I agree with everything that everyone said, but I think the way we look to play cricket in T20 cricket up until that 44 for 4 against Pakistan, we were playing attacking cricket. Everyone here agreed that we had the potential and players to win the World Cup with the way they were playing. Nobody before we had like a few indecisions here and there where maybe the number 7 of Wayne Parnell was too early in the team, or Temba shouldn't be captain and Riza should come in. But on the whole, everyone I've spoken to agreed that we could win this World Cup. We have the potential and we have the players to win this World Cup. And I think you're at point 6. Your last point in your article was where I think the main focus needs to come in. We're never going to win a World Cup with the mentality that we have. People, we need to just realize, okay, this team are chokers. Why is the coach denying that we chokers? He made a comment saying something like, we've won tough situations recently, but like this was a choke at the end of the day. The most important thing, we've seen all soccer teams in the world, they have these sports psychologists getting the team ready and amped for these big games. I didn't see that against Netherlands. We have our most successful team in South Africa is the Springbok team. They win matches under massive circumstances, big matches. They show up. We need some like why can't we just get like someone like Rasi or something, go speak to these people? Like my mind is boggled. Like we can argue about all these small selections and how we need to, for the long term, how to fix these things. But at the end of the day, we had this World Cup. Everyone said we can win this World Cup, and we lost to Netherlands.
Yeah, and we did say that, and I agree, and a lot of us said that. But there were a lot of ifs when we did make our previews. There were certain ifs that we did place on the table, and specifically it was the power play. And we said that if we can't start scoring runs in the power play, we're going to suffer. We can't rely on our middle order every game to score runs, and that's exactly what happened in this tournament. There's apart from one particular game where Quinny and Riley performed, the rest of the tournament they didn't. They all the top order was dismal in this particular game. So they made a judgment call on keeping Quinny. We were talking about on this channel about dropping Quinny not so long ago, and Aditya knows about this because every single time we mentioned it, Quinny Cock went to score double 250s in a row afterwards. So we've been speaking about it for a very, very long time about are there players that aren't droppable in this team? And there was an outcry from a lot of the fan base because they were like, yes, there are certain players that deserve to be there and get to push through because because we know their quality. I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. I think in a World Cup, you pick your best players on the day for the conditions that are available to you. There's no sentiment involved when it comes to a tournament and lifting a trophy. And I think in every single trophy and every single World Cup we've gone to, there's been sentiment in picks. The 1999 World Cup that everybody speaks about, saying that we choked. Lance Kluis, and a lot of the highlight was on Lance Kluis and Alan Donald for choking, which I largely disagree with. In fact, the majority of the country was against the two of them. Alan Donald took it very hard. He actually went for counseling and for psychology for it. He told us this on a special interview as well. He said that he went for counseling. He struggled with it. But Lance Kluis had a very different viewpoint. He said, this is not our fault, or not Alan's or mine. The top 6 dropped. The top 6 choked in that particular match. And it's happened regular basis where our senior players have choked. I look at the players that we select and I look at our domestic team. And this is why I said that there needs to be communication between the domestic clubs and the domestic franchises, or whatever we want to call them, the provincial teams, as well as the international teams. Because I've seen many a times rocking up at a game thinking that a certain squad is going to play, and a couple of days beforehand, the team has to change their squad and find players within their revenue to come within their squad to bring into the team because the new Proteas squad has been selected, and these players have been selected for the Proteas. Why is that not communicated with the franchises beforehand? Going to the franchise before a season and telling them they should know this as a selection panel if they've done their research, especially if you've had a previous World Cup. We had 2 in a row. They had 2 years, 3 years almost to plan for 2 World Cups. They knew that the first one was going to be a stepping stone, and then the next one we're going to go and win it because Australia was supposed to be favorable conditions. That's what everybody was speaking about, including the coaches, including the players, and everybody. So my problem here over here is knowing that who the potential Proteas players are going to be in the domestic setup. Why is those conversations not happening with the province and saying, look here, you're most likely going to miss out a couple of these couple of games in the season. Find a replacement that can replace him in the setup, in the domestic setup, where there is an easy transition there too. And we're not fishing around for players and finding and hopping on anybody, falling on players in form. We hope that someone catches form rather than trying to give that person time to prepare for the challenge that's coming ahead. I feel like we've been dishing out caps like underwear. Literally in the last 5 years, we've given out their debuts like it's candy. It's literally that's the case. We hope that someone's going to come right and stick. And I think that is bad planning because there's never been planning since Graeme Smith was at the helm as a DLC. There was never a plan with regards to domestic cricket. The whole focus was the now. We're going to focus on the England tour. We're going to have to win now. We're going to have to focus on the national team. There was even not much given to the women's side either. The whole main focus was the men's side, actually, if you look at it. There was help. There was some help there and some acknowledgement given to them. But even the women's side, there was nothing spoken about on what we're going to do domestically. Another thing, pick winners. If you're going into a tournament and you want to win things, pick winners. Guys that have done it before in domestic cricket. A win is a win, no matter what trophy you win. The same pressures come with any trophy that you win. Okay, yes, it's elevated because there's 70,000 people or 100,000 people in the stadium and you're playing international cricket and the competition is different. But still, getting over the line is getting over the line. You'll notice that competitive people, whether they're playing dice, whether they're playing pool, whether they're playing their professional sport, whether they're playing table tennis, they want to win. That's their mindset, their mentality. Winners are made in that way. You look at the domestic setup and you look at a guy like Frisco Adams, who's been toiling away in domestic cricket for the last 5 to 7 years, winning trophies for the Knights, winning trophies for the Paul Rocks, winning trophies for teams that he's played for in the format. Not even looked at. Someone that has the mentality and has proven as a proven winner within our system, has been put under pressure in circumstances, and that's why his name is the Iceman. It was coined the Iceman in the papers, in national newspapers. So why are we not thinking about those mental aspects of the game? It seems to me like they look at a sheet of people that are averaging a certain amount and then picking according to that. And strike rate. Sometimes your strike rate can look marvelous and you only scored 100 in the whole tournament, so or 150 or 115 in the whole tournament. So it's crazy that I think the stats tell another story, even with regards to Test cricket. We keep on complaining about the fact that we haven't found an opening partnership in donkey's years that is solid, but we keep selecting openers that don't convert in domestic cricket. How do you expect them to convert into national cricket if they can't convert in domestic cricket? And they've been playing over 100 games in the format. It doesn't make sense. So that's my problem, is that the structures and the plans and the communication that's happening in domestic cricket. You know how many domestic cricketers that won top form last season didn't even get a call from Victor Impensang? That is shocking, in my opinion, because at least they should get a call for SAA, or discussions need to be happening for the emerging side or SAA. But those things have not been happening. It's almost like a massive surprise for the player when it happens. Like, yep, hooray, let's send up balloons. You got picked for the Proteas. But when do they ever have time to prepare for those things that they're preparing for? You're not going to face the same challenges in international cricket that you face domestically. Your focus will be here, playing the conditions here, focusing on the next game that you're playing. If you know that you're going to Australia next week or next month or 2 months from now, I think your preparation might be a little bit different when you go into a 4-day season. That's my opinion. Let's move on. Who else wants to add some?
I just want to say, you speak of everyone focusing on the men's team, and everything's always been Proteas men. That focus hasn't changed. It's just shifted to SA20. Everyone's focusing on SA20, but it's still the same thing. The domestic season was restructured long before Graham came. It was in the books. They just implemented the restructure. So yes, there was a renewed focus on domestic cricket, but to a certain extent, we're in the same spot as that day Graham had that press conference at the airport when they were bringing him in saying that he's going to be the new director of cricket. We've gone full circle. He's left us at the same point we were at, but all we have now is a new tournament on the side that could potentially help us. But I don't know how a World Cup exit to the Netherlands potentially helps us going forward in the SA20. I don't know, but we'll see. But for me, we're back to the same spot that we've been in. We do these cycles over and over again and nothing changes, which is why maybe someone like an Enoch will come in with something new, but it doesn't look good because his first World Cup, it's just a horrible, horrible mess. And there was nobody, and I know everyone was talking about all the decisions to drop Tim and everything else. Nobody from that little hierarchy between Enoch, between Victor, and the selectors, between Mark, were willing to make the tough decisions to either move Bavuma out or even to make the tough decisions to say, maybe it is time to let KG sit out. Because to me, that's what wins you World Cups. You saw Australia, they put Aaron Finch to the side. I don't like seeing a captain sit on the side, but that's what it is. But somebody needed to make that decision, but nobody was willing to make it. And they just doubled down on mistakes. And then yesterday was just a microcosm of mistakes being doubled down the whole way through.
Yeah, something that I would really like to see in SA cricket going forward is communication with fans from selectors and coaches, telling them like what Rassi does for SA Rugby. Whenever there's a team selection for a big tournament or a tour or something, he comes out, posts a video explaining why each player is picked and why some players are not picked. It's very clear. It gives fans are not always going to agree. Everyone's going to disagree, but at least we'd have an understanding of why someone was picked and why the person we thought should have been picked isn't picked. It gives us an understanding of where the team is going. And I think as fans, we deserve this. Like all we get from as a fan, I'm just a fan. All I see is the Proteas playing cricket. That's all I see. I don't see anything else. No communication. Like we don't know what's going on. We just see them playing cricket. We see them losing, and that's it.
And that's why we started this platform. I mean, the funny thing is, I think an hour, was it the hour? I think, Paul, when Aditya, I think it was an hour, 2 hours before Victor had to walk into the office to become the selector. We brought him on the show and we interviewed him and asked him those exact questions. And it's the funny thing is, I do those things for the fans, and we're trying to do that to the fans. Well, obviously, a lot of them don't know about us yet, but maybe in the future they will. But we asked him those questions about what his selection processes are, what is he going to be doing to pick players, etc., etc. But what he told us and what happened was very, very, very contradictory. Myself and I sat through a lot of presses as well, speaking about it and saying, Boucher said X, but he's doing Y. And I've spoken to Pat Maroney as well on the channel. Then you know how many levels we have to go through to even get that interview, Nazir? It's mental. The day that I had to ask Patrick, I saw Patrick in the stadium and I asked him, can I interview him? I thought it will be quite an easy one to do because he's there, he's chilled, whatever. He had to go through CSA, ask the media managers, etc. And before he could give us an interview to discuss what he's thinking about. But I'll try it again. I'll message them and ask them again. But it would be great if I could have both of them actually on. It would make a lot more sense to get them both on. I'm probably going to get taken apart in that bloody interview. But okay, I'll try. I'll ask them and see what they say. Because it would be nice to understand what they're thinking into this. And we've said it many, many times. Thank you for saying it again, because we've said it many times on this channel that we would like direct communication from the fans to give us a direction of where we're going and why they're picking.
Here's the thing, right? Yes, they
or
can
even a
explain
presser.
themselves.
Even a
No,
presser.
but they can say, but in football, the type of players Pep wants. You know the type of players ETH wants. You know the type of players Arteta plays with, right? We just want guys to fall in line. So to show us what this thing that they want. So if you're going to select a team, we don't question why guys are there because we know that that's what we want you to be. So if in effect, because they can come and sit here and tell us beautiful things, beautiful stories. But then when you look at the team sheet like we've had for the past couple of years, and are like, I don't understand what's going on, you know? So for me, we want the communication, but we also want to see it in action because there were a lot of mixed messages, there were a lot of mixed signals. There were so many things that have gone wrong in this World Cup and the previous one, and even in the way we play our Test cricket, and the way we select our players in our Test cricket, where you're like, okay, dude, like where are we going with this? And so I just like a clear direction, and then someone to follow out on that direction and not deviate. And when they do deviate, fine, yes, do tell us. But we need to go because, like, even instance, one simple thing yesterday. Why the hell did we decide to bowl yesterday? Whose decision was it? I thought it was Boucher and Timber and the senior and the bowlers and the senior players. How the hell did they decide to bowl first?
It's crazy. I mean, I looked at the stats before and I said it on the previous show. I said it's clear to see that this is a particular pitch that you bowl first.
Khalid, if you arrived at Adelaide, remember the first pictures we got of Adelaide with the team working out for the thing? It looked like
Terug.
I was like, what the?
Terug. Sorry, Werner.
So it's like watch my right hand, but I'm gonna do something else with my left hand. Forget about the left hand, but this is the right hand that's happening, and that's been what's happened over the past 18 months.
Yeah.
Even with Women's captaincy selection, it was this, but we were like, but you guys wanted to go this way. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So
exactly. And yeah, the whole never mind. We'll get into that a little bit later. Werner, on the selections part of things, I want you to add some thoughts onto that. I understand why we can't obviously do it before games, of course, because of match fixing. And those like the box released the team the day before. That can never happen in cricket.
Like the squad. Like if they announce a squad, explain why the squad is picked, not the team before.
I mean,
England and Australia the day before a Test match starts, they give their teams.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, anyway.
It
makes total sense because I said I would have liked the presser. Like, exactly, why can't they set up a presser for us when the squad is selected? Give the media a chance to ask some questions. That's a different story because there's different people running different things. So it's a mess at the moment. Your thoughts on the selection?
Yeah, just first on the match, and I talked about this yesterday. It feels like ages ago, but yesterday morning, I suppose. It doesn't feel like yesterday, but anyway. So I talked about the decisions just didn't make sense from the start. From the time you decided to bowl first on a dry pitch in Australia, where you know you should be batting first, or we know that they should be batting first. I don't know the thought processes that they went through. They're not picking Shamsi, knowing that. They went as far as picking Shamsi at the ACG after the first match when he didn't play. And we picked him in the second match because they thought the pitch was slightly dry and it's helpful for the spinners. So why was that process there for the second match, but it wasn't for this match where the pitch was even drier? And it's a day match. Like, there's not going to be. It's the earliest match of the whole tournament. So obviously, okay. So I didn't understand multiple facets of the game yesterday and what the full process is in terms of selection.
Yeah, but at Werner, on that point as well, they knew. It's like Nazir said, they knew beforehand that it's going to be an early game. It's not like they only found out on the day. They knew
they woke up and they were tired. They woke up that morning and like, wait,
actually,
what do you mean?
All of us looked at it and we were like, why is South Africa the only team to play this early 2 a.m. game also? Like,
they woke up and they were like, what do you mean we're playing 4 hours earlier than we thought? That wasn't in our schedule.
Let me tell you something, right? The moment Timber walked out wearing Bjorn Fortuyn's jersey, that was when you should have realized, today we're going to see it. We're gonna
Fortunes
see it.
weren't going to favor us.
What was it? Was it the malfunction or something they said with the wardrobes? I don't know what happened
Something
with the
about the
Yeah,
laundry.
laundry
which
malfunction.
was
Even the
surprised to be
kit
playing at
manager is
10 a.m.
joking.
Like,
Even the Lord.
no, but that's the thing. Those are the little things that win you games. Those are the little things that you need to take care of against those teams. You can't just automatically see yourself on the other end, but you don't take care of the little things like a kid. Like then clearly the management was Diamacar.
It's
They were
mad.
just like when he said that when they woke up at I kind of feel like they all set their alarms for 8 a.m. and they woke up at 8 a.m. and they realized they actually needed to be at the stadium in like 30 minutes. That's what Mark Boucher told. That's how it came across to me. Because the other thing was, it kind of felt like after Pakistan, they gave them the a couple of days off, and they only arrived back at the hotel on Saturday night. And when they arrived at the hotel, Mark had put up a list outside of his door to say, "This is the 11 that's playing tomorrow. Good night. See you on the bus at 9 a.m." That's how it looked like, because they were all confused.
I mean, anything about the time differences there? I mean, Werner, you need to still continue your point about the selection, but the time differences between the two places that needed to travel and stuff, I don't even think there's an excuse there because you know that also. So, Werner, continue.
Yeah, there there really shouldn't be any excuses. This is an international team, an international coach. They can't tell me that, oh sorry, we're playing a bit earlier, so we were tired, so we weren't really up for the game. Up for a game that you know you have to win to make the semifinals. I mean, surely that can't be a
And if they
reason.
wanted that leeway, they needed to beat Pakistan.
Yeah, beat Pakistan. When you have them 43 for 4, how do you allow them to go and post a big total and then not even get close? So, yeah, they should have won it there. I don't even know what I want to make, the point I want to make about the selections. I agree about the fact that Stubbs didn't play. It's baffling to me. I think I posted a tweet that like I could sort of understand, but I wanted to go with Klaassen because he has been in good form this year. But if you've picked Stubb at 6 heading into this World Cup, you picked him for the first few games. That means that you should be backing him for the whole World Cup, regardless if he's put in big performances. 6 is a difficult place to come in. You're not gonna get consistent 40s and 50s. You're gonna come in. Your job is to try and start striking from ball one, and you're not gonna be consistent. But you know that guy has the ability to strike a 20 of 8 balls, and that could be the change that you need in the game. That could be the match defining innings. And so deciding to drop the guy, I mean, he's 22, obviously he doesn't have all the experience in the world, but you know exactly what his ability is, and you've picked him for that role. To then go and drop him for a game like against the Netherlands, where you know that that's probably a team that he could really dominate against. It felt strange. Selections, but we've talked about selections in general across formats for the Proteas. That's often been baffling, and you don't get any straight answers when it's posed to them in the media, and they're like, okay, we thought that would be the best, and that's about what we get. We can never get clear answers about what were their thought process going into it, and the times we do, we're all like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But do you think there should be a criteria in place generally when picking a squad? Is there, like, what methods would you go through? Because at the moment, I mean, I don't know how they find their players actually.
Yeah, so you probably start, okay, if you look within the squad, you think, okay, this is our best 11 for most conditions, right? So you have your set plan, you have your 6 batters, you possibly have one all-rounder, you hope he bats better than Wayne Parnell was batted in the last few months, and then you have your bowlers. They've looked at it, they want to bowl teams out, or they want to take as many wickets as possible to restrict teams or put them under pressure with the ball when we post a total, which is actually where we've been better at. And that's what we want to do. But then you adjust for conditions. So you go to a pitch like what Adelaide was yesterday, you pick an extra spinner because that suits the conditions. If you see your top order is not firing, then bring in the guy that's been in good form, has been performing. If that means dropping, even if that means dropping Temba, that would be I mean, that's a difficult conversation to have in the middle of a World Cup. How do you go about dropping your captain and saying, okay, we're going to pick Reza Hendricks, now we're going to shove Miller into captaincy. That's not something you really do mid-tournament. That's a decision you have to take before the tournament. You say, heading into this tournament, Temba's not had great form. He's been injured. He's probably not in the best space right now to be leading us in the World Cup form-wise with the bat. Should we be going in with him as captain into the tournament? And you make that decision then and there. But once you've made him captain, heading into the World Cup, it's difficult to backtrack then. So these type of conversations need to happen before big tournaments like this. We can't go into it and then he continues with his poor form in the first 3 games. To then pull him, it's not going to look good. Maybe it will please a lot of people, and maybe it would be technically better for the team batting wise, but will it be better for the team morale? I don't know. So these things, it sometimes just feels like they don't think all of these things through beforehand. They sort of make it up as they go along.
Because it's happened before, man. With AB, it happened before with Amala in the 2019 World Cup, where they weren't sure between Amala and Reza who's going to play, making the decision on the last minute. He's going to play, whether he's not going to play. Again, with the T20 World Cup, is he going to come back? Is he not going to come back? Faf, we were unsure about. Imran, unsure about. Okay, Chris Morris is a different story. He was told straight out. But Imran and Imran and Faf, there weren't really much conversations between the selectors and him. So there's a lot of these drama things that happen around our World Cup. It doesn't really put us on a good setting going into a tournament.
Yeah, you want guys to be flexible. Yes, Nazir?
Like, I still don't know why, like, nobody's come out. Nobody from CSA has come out and said, this is why Faf isn't playing. This is why Imran Tahir isn't considered at all. I still don't know.
Read his book.
Okay, so Imi is a different story. They apparently there was a miscommunication or something about WhatsApp. That's what I heard, which is a stupid excuse.
No.
But with regard to apparently because he was in UAE and WhatsApp calls don't take calls in UAE or something like that.
The story was Imi reached out to Temba to ask Temba if he could, because people weren't getting, he was wondering where his position was. And so Temba then went to Mark to be like, hey, here's this dude. Imran wants to chat to you guys about this. And then he was like, no, but we've got Shamsi, it's fine. He didn't want him. They moved on from him because Shamsi came through.
And with Faf, it was a problem of he wasn't playing other formats.
Yes.
And they needed to open up
all these things.
It's a stupid excuse. I think it was a stupid, dumb excuse. I don't think that Boucher and Faf saw eye to eye.
No, there are other players in that team that don't see eye to eye with Boucher, but I'm waiting for Mark to leave the room.
But like, no, but seriously, they were supposed. So what they needed to do is what they spoke about was creating a T20 specific contract for certain players that are only going to play T20 cricket for the country. And South Africa weren't willing to do that, to put together a contract that's going to cost a certain amount of money for players that are only going to play T20 cricket. If you play Proteas, you need to play all formats or 2 of formats out of the 3. So apparently that was the reason that they gave Faf, but read his book, he probably gives you the full version in there as well.
That is strange because he didn't retire from ODIs either. He wanted to play both of the formats.
He wanted to play both.
But they ended up saying...
And the last time I asked him, he said that to me too. He said, yes, I want to play for South Africa. So
even
AB is a different story. AB is a different story. Let me not get
but guys, read the tea leaves. Read the tea leaves. Boucher didn't want Faf in that dressing room.
No.
Because everything that's happened when Graham came in was Graham got everything he wanted. Graham got the Colpack players back. Graham got everything that everything was working. Mark got pretty much whatever they wanted. They ran the roost for that year. So if they wanted Faf to play, Faf would play.
He would have played.
Yes.
And it was a stupid excuse because the reason I say it's a stupid excuse because Mark Boucher said it in his presser. We will do whatever it takes to go and get AB de Villiers if the chance happens.
And even if it was a situation of Faf having to play more test cricket, Faf would have done it. And that's the type of guy Faf is.
Faf is, yeah.
If they were like,
Incredible person, you do not
like, and I'm sure the fans have seen how great the guy Faf is, but that's the type of personality it is. So with Graham talking because we came in with a lot of promises about things that were going to change, but some of the players in the setup just were affected in a different way. And so there are stories. I'd like the stories from some of the players who aren't Timber to actually talk, because Khalid, you know better than me the drama that happens in that side, that's happened under Mark in that side. But you want flexibility, and I know in soccer, like Khalid, because you're a Manchester United supporter, Harry Maguire, club captain, sitting on the bench because he's not good enough, right? But you have a core captaincy group.
Yeah.
That's what was supposed to happen. And I remember I came on here and said, before you get to Australia, they need to sit down and discuss this, to say that do not be surprised if Timber's not going to play. Do not.
That should
be
have been
shocked
the case.
if he's going to play. But here's the fallback plan. It's either Keshav or it's either David, but we have a leadership group of 3 players. And I think maybe that's what we need to go forward doing. To say that in test match cricket, we're going to have a leadership group of 3 players. At any one time, one of these guys will be playing. They could all 3 be playing, but most of the times it'll just be one. And you have a group of 3 guys who will lead the side, who know how to lead the side, who know how to do all of these things. And we do that going forward, so that if someone somehow gets off form or is injured or whatever it is, you just know, oh no, they're going to pick us. Like, yes, the other day, okay, the only surprising thing about Manchester United yesterday was Cristiano Ronaldo being captain, but leadership group. Like, he's seemingly part of the
Arsenal
leadership
fans.
group.
Yes,
Huh?
they have to just throw some football in there
Look, my
somewhere so
team
they
has
can
a
brag
leadership
about
group.
being top.
Hey, look, I'm in a new territory here, but essentially that's what was needed to happen. And to Werner's point, it could have even happened in the middle of the tournament, because for me, Australia had that conversation in the middle of the tournament. Australia had that conversation to say we needed to let go of Aaron Finch, and all I ever asked for was maturity and discussions to be had, and for guys to actually talk. And
Yeah.
I read Fav's book. Well, in Fav's book, he speaks of there was a time when he went to Russell Domingo when he was like not scoring any runs in Test cricket, and he went to Russell and he said, "Russell, I think you guys need to drop me." It was after the 2015 World Cup. We're gonna play England at the end of the year, and he wasn't scoring runs in Test match cricket, and he was like, "I want you guys to drop me." He wasn't captain at the time, but he went to them and said, "I want you guys to drop me," and he describes it in his book about how hard it was, a mental space for him to get himself back into it. And it took him a long time because they just said, no, we're not dropping you. That's another possibility.
And the comparison to
what
other
happened in the
sports
tournament.
is, and the comparison to other sports is, as an individual, you're obviously highlighted way more in cricket than you are in other sports. You can lose as a team and still hide away. You know, certain players can look good within a good system. McTominay and Fred. So, like, for example, you can be a crap player, for example, and still come out and be highlighted. So, like, my point over here is that in cricket it's a little bit different. So the way they manage it from a sports psychology point of view is going to be very different, because they're going to have to find a way for them to teach these people from the psychology that I've studied when I did it for a little while. It's going to be a adaptation of the normal psychology practices that they will obviously have to look for a particular player when it comes to cricket. That's why I think it's so hard to find a sports psychologist for specifically cricket. A lot of them. There's not a lot of them out there. There are ones that have done good work and are still doing good work out there, for individually for each players. I mean, look at Cristiano Ronaldo, for example. I use him as an example, right? One of the greatest players that we've ever seen, from a goal scoring point of view, and a lot of people will agree with me on that, and some will disagree. But he was struggling for form, and he got a psychologist to come to his house, to come and talk to him. You know, he personally flew one in, someone that's actually very popular in the world, to just speak to. And if players of that caliber that have achieved everything in the game need it, imagine the guys that are continuously struggling. It's baffling to me that we've choked for 20 odd years and we still don't have a sports psychologist in the team. It's crazy.
Steve Smith, as a psychologist, he talks to every day, and he's spoken about it. Especially even after what happened with Sandpapergate, he speaks about how he would speak to a psychologist. They'd go through their mental state. He'd have like a number every day to kind of tell the psychologist how he's feeling. If it's a 1, where is he feeling bad? Or if it's a 10, if he's feeling great. And it works through mental things to try and not let this game get you. And that's what cricket is. It gets to players. And the problem about all of this was that you had a captain who mentally was probably shot.
Yeah.
And there was no work done. There was nobody there who was going to help him unless if he sat with Mark every day and they spoke through his feelings, and that would have been great, and I would have been appreciated. But essentially, that's the problem. But it's a team that was afraid. Remember the whole drama we had about Black Lives Matter and the kneeling? This team can't have hard conversations because they couldn't have a hard conversation then. They can't have a hard conversation now, and that's where I think the situation came to. Because if they had the hard conversations, we would have found ourselves in a different spot. You know,
like for
even the conversation around Kagiso.
I mean, no team in the world, and none of the teams in the world had an issue like South Africa had. I mean, why did we have that issue? I mean, the rugby team won't have that issue. If they were told to kneel tomorrow, they'll kneel. Like, I mean, we had an issue within our camp that I don't understand. Australia was kneeling, England was kneeling, the whole world was kneeling, and South Africa wanted to have certain players in the group who decided they don't want to be a part of that, and that's a problem.
That speaks to the leadership.
Yeah,
it speaks to the leadership because Faf says they would have knelt if he was captain, and he speaks about how the teams do the whole bonfires before the tournament, and he kind of gives everyone a sense of what actually happens when the Proteas meet for a tour. And what they do and they discuss. So that was my question: is
I could see that with you could see that.
But he said it was happening even under Graham. So then my question was, for a person like Mark, who was Graham's number 2, right? How could that not have happened? Because that's what you kind of need. So my question was, why was he holding on to? There's a couple of things I'd like to ask Victor and Mark. Why were they holding on to Temba for a little bit too long? Right, especially with that injury, you could have carefully deflected Temba out.
It would have been the perfect chance to do it. Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's also, and this is what and I hope on Wednesday somebody can ask Mark. Actually, maybe you should ask him to be like, I understand you said you backed it, but from a form perspective, what were you trying to get at with this guy? Because we understand the fact that you want to back a player to come back into form, but when a situation like this that's extraordinary, where you have somebody else waiting in the wings who's really playing well, how does that? Because he kind of answered it in one of the games, I think it was against Zimbabwe, where they asked him, and he was like, "It's unfortunate for a player like Riza who's on form to be like this, but Temba's our captain, and we're gonna stick with it." You know, and so but I'm actually Mumbai Indians fans. Good luck. You know, I don't like the guy. Good luck.
Yo, if it goes into flames for him there. Werner, I'm gonna give Nazir a final say, and then Werner to end us off and take us home.
Nah, I'm sick of this team. I don't know what to say about them. Like, I've supported them for too long. I thought I'd be numb to this feeling of waking up the next day after another choke in the ICC event. I'm not over it yet. I don't know if I'm kind of reached the point in my life where I've accepted we're never going to win an ICC event. Hopefully we can reach the top of the ICC rankings again, but we're never going to win an ICC event. I'm over it. I've accepted it. It is what it is. Yeah, nothing else I can say.
You know, it's ironic. I was thinking before this tournament, this is actually our best format. I felt like this is where we've been really competitive against teams where our batting lineup actually looks good. I mean, in Test cricket, we're second in the World Test Championship, but that's down to our bowlers. Our batting has not been great at all, and there's been constant collapses. But I felt like, okay, in T20 cricket, at least we now have these batters that can really take the attack to the bowlers. We really stand a better chance of going far. And then we bomb out against the Netherlands. And you could see it from a mile away from our bowling innings. I'm like, oh, no. And then they made 158, and I'm like, okay, we're probably not going to chase this because we know this is a pressure game. We're probably going to fumble this. And then we did. And so that wasn't surprising to me. But it remains disappointing. Obviously, we want our team to perform well. I think we can be angry and upset and whatever, but in the end we all come back to support them because we want them to do well. We do want to see good performances. We want to see new guys coming in and performing well, like Stubbs. We want Stubbs to be smashing bowlers all over the place. We want somebody to come in, let's say a Gerald Coetzee, to come in and run through batting lineups. But I think in the end, we just need to support the guys. It's going to be a tough little period for them now, coming back from the World Cup, turning on the TV, seeing other teams playing in the semifinals we should have been playing. I was already thinking
I'm
about
not watching
how,
the rest of this tournament.
I'm not
Only the
watching.
final. Only the final.
yeah, I'd probably
And you
give
guys
it a
call
skip.
yourselves fans of cricket.
Yeah,
I'll only watch it.
Of South African cricket. Fans of South African cricket, yeah.
I'm supporting New Zealand. So
I'm
I'm
Absolutely.
definitely
You do
supporting New Zealand.
100%. I want him to win.
No, for me, it's Devon Conway. If Devon Conway can win a World Cup, to hell with CSA, it's fine.
Good guys, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really enjoyed this, the comments and the chat. I'm going to read some fan questions out and talk to the fans a little bit. You guys can leave if you want to. You can stay. It's up to you. But yeah, I'm going to be reading some of that. So thanks a lot, Nazir and Paul Werner, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed your banter. We'll do another. We're going to be continuously talking about various. I'm going to try to break it down and talk about certain sections of like selection alone, and then obviously picking the best players and all. And then I want to do a show as well on what we learned from the CSA T20 Challenge as well, because there's a lot to learn from there. That I think it was a very good tournament for us as South African cricket fans. I know there's a lot of people that say the standard was low, but there's a lot of things that I think we should learn from that we should be speaking about. So that's a show that we would like to do as well. I'll invite Tom for that one as well. And Paul, if you can speak to him, that would be great as well. Yeah, that would be an awesome show to talk about the domestic. Okay, cool. So thanks, guys. See you soon. Cheers. If you're going to go or not, it doesn't. That's a bit awkward. See, you can stay. Okay, cool. So, guys, I just want to read some of your comments, the last couple of ones over here, because I haven't really giving you guys attention. You know, if I have a panel, it's very difficult for me to get to everything and to read all of your comments while I'm live, because I'm trying to focus on what has been said so I can move on the conversation. KG Bradman, what a surname. What a name. Parnell at 7 when he is a tail ender. Bavuma opening instead of Hendrik. Shamsi not playing. The Cock and Markram are a pressure game. Guaranteed wicket. There was never communication between players, coaches, and management, and that's a big problem in South African cricket. I speak about it in my article as well. It's a major problem. Parnell, the worst in T20 cricket for number 7. All sides. You see, I think that's a bit unfair on Wayne Parnell because he had no choice but to step up in the number 7 role. He was a number 8, selected as a number 8, and Dwayne Pretorius' injury before the World Cup really put us back. We didn't have a traveling reserve that was necessarily a number 7. We had Andile on the bench. The question would have been, would you have preferred to play Marco at 7 over Parnell? And that is something that there's some good sentiments in there and some good points in there. I believe that Marco has the right mentality for this team. He's got a winning mentality, and I like that about him. He plays very well under pressure, and he enjoys the pressure. It's very difficult to find sports people that enjoy the pressure. Some people don't enjoy the pressure, but they perform under pressure. Gary Neville spoke about it quite a lot as well, and I know I use United as an example because it's my team, but he spoke about it a lot. He said he hated pressure. He hated those crunch moments. He would love it if he would just go into a game and win 3-0 and it will be easy. But he was able to find ways to handle the pressure because he knew he just had to. He had no choice. And that's something that they need to do. You can't tell me that there isn't a Khalid batter better in T20s than Temba and entire South Africa. I mean, that Keegan Peterson, who crushed it in tests, can't be worse than Temba. He's actually playing T20 cricket for the Dolphins at the moment. I was shocked at the selection. I told you guys before, and if you go back to that video, you'll see when they selected Temba as a captain. But I was getting right behind him. Either way, because it wasn't his fault that he got selected. That was always my thing. I always said, criticize the players, but don't dehumanize the players. You can criticize players without being crude and rude and dehumanizing. It's possible. Michael Joseph says, Khalid, I need to drink a lot, at least for a week, to forget the shameful, laughable defeat. Not able to bear it. Bro, I'm struggling. Really, there's times where I'm sitting, chilling alone and just thinking about it and running it through my mind. And I mean, this has been a 2-year long, 3-year, 4-year journey with this team, and I really thought they were building something special. I really thought that they would do it this time around. But the signs were starting to hop on before the tournament already. There were certain signs that were starting to make me really nervous and scared. And it ended up being what it is in the end of the day. Khalid, you interviewed Enoch Nkwe not so long ago. Did you ask him about having a sports psychologist in the Proteas management? I think he spoke about it. He did spoke about the mental side of the game, and I'm not 100% sure if I spoke to him when he was DOC already. Oh yes, I did actually on the show. We spoke about it, and I asked him about the future of South Africa. I didn't actually ask him about psychologists. I will try to get him on another shows where you guys can also ask him questions too. Unfortunately, none of you guys actually watched that stream live. You would have had an opportunity to actually ask him questions on that show. So please look out for those prompts on social media when we do go live at random times, because then you can ask. You might get a special guest or a special surprise where you can ask people questions. I would really appreciate it. The coach should be able to choose the team lineup. The coach does. Boucher had full control, guys. I know you guys don't want to believe it, but Boucher had a lot of control when it came to picking that team from what we've heard. So that is not an excuse, I don't think. How do you think they will ever play T20 for SA? I think it's going to be very difficult for him. It depends on what direction we go. It really does depend what direction we go right now. If they believe that they want to be sticking with what is here as a core and then build around it, then probably will. But I think a new rebuild needs to happen. I think they need to reset a team culture, create a team culture, and then pick players that suit it, that have the right mentality. Whether they're 19 or whether they're 25, 30, I don't care. They need to pick the right players with the right mentality. And when I say mentality, it's winning mentality. Players that have proven it year in, year out, that they can perform under pressure. It's very easy to go and find out that information. You can pick up a phone call and ask any coach in the country. If there's a certain situation, if you ask any coach in South African cricket, they'll probably be able to tell you. If there's a certain situation and your back is against the wall and you need someone to perform under the pressure, who are the players that you're going to turn to? It's a simple question to ask. And then it takes some scouting. Go and see it for yourself. Those players that you have on the list, that all can be done beforehand. Literally, before you go and start picking squads for the international team, you can already start developing some plans for the next 3-4 years. We have an excellent under-19 coach. Yes, he didn't have a great tournament, but he was asking a lot of the players in a very short space of time to learn how to read conditions, etc. And he's setting the precedent for the future. I think a lot of lessons were learned in that tournament, and I think the players will be for the better for that. It's clear to see that the under-19 teams from other countries are far ahead of us when it comes to certain aspects of the game. So I think Shukri's been going to do a really great job with that under-19 team and reading conditions. But it seems like maybe he needs to be in the national side because they also need to learn how to read conditions. What's wrong with Rabada and Quinton de Kock? They never play well in an ICC tournament. It's shocking to me too, bro. It's very, very shocking to me too. Is the right call to bring Brevis in the setup? You see, I want the people to be patient. I think it would have been the wrong decision to bring him into this World Cup with the way things went here. I don't think that it would have been the right environment for Deovat right now in this team, especially when you have a captain that was being selected over everybody else. If Brevis went and he was just sitting on the bench, which could have happened, that would have been very bad for Brevis and his confidence going forward. I would rather want to be part of a fresh new project around players like him, guys that are hungry, that still have a love for the game, that really want to push. If you build a like-minded team with people that think the same way from a mental perspective, you are on the right path to success. Revamp the entire SA team in all three formats. The current players are not producing results consistently. Guys, thanks a lot. Who would you like to see as the net captain? I would prefer Aiden because there's more longevity in Aiden, and I feel that Aiden, the human that Aiden being, the human being that Aiden is, and I'm not saying that Muller is a bad person. Don't think that I'm saying that, but I'm saying the human being that Aiden is. He's a caring person. He's always aware and he's always aware of what's happening in domestic cricket and what the struggles players are going through. He's always happy to help and others. I like Aiden Markram a lot as a captain. He's proven in T20 format, particularly. I think it might be the right place to start. Blood him in as a captain. And then if he's showing the signs of being a good leader in T20 cricket, I think that he would be probably the right person because of his age group that he is and the generational gap. He's been between both. He's seen the FAFs, the ABs, and he's now seeing the new system. He's kind of the person that's kind of slap bang in the middle and experienced both sides of things. So I think he has all the experience already within the camp and ins and outs to be able to lead with a new coach. Because I feel that Aiden's the type of person that needs someone that is collaborative with him, that can talk with him and plan with him, and then come to a conclusion. I think Aiden would be the right choice from that perspective in T20 cricket right now. If we're picking from the current bunch, but I think there needs to be a proper discussion with regards to what we're going to need from a captain, and there needs to be a transitional plan with the captaincy too. I would like to see vice captains be selected that have a chance to be the next Proteas captain. Not just picking a vice captain because you're looking for someone to fill the gap. I would like to see a succession plan with regards to captains and the way they behave too. Because it's a lot easier for a captain to come into a new setup if there's already structures and certain things that is expected of them. Certain sort of rules and etiquette to deal with. Guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it's the longest episode we've ever shot on the channel, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this long format shows, let me know. We can try our best to do it more often. For all the guys that are new to the channel and haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel if you're new and click that notification bell for all future videos, please. It's very important that you please do so. It really helps and supports us as best as possible. And to all of the guys out there, oops, I need to get this away. For all the guys that are out there that don't know that we are a digital magazine, we have a free digital magazine that's free for you to download. Link is on the screen as well as in the description, including all issues 100% free. We don't ask for any money for whatsoever and put in a lot of work to get that published to you. If you do want to support us with money, then you can become a Patron. You can help us grow and promote South African cricket by becoming a Patron today. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Take care. Enjoy your evening. Peace out.